I went to the family cabin last summer. I thought it would help me find peace and inspiration after losing my job. The cabin was in the Arctic Circle, surrounded by tall pines and endless snow. My family had it for generations. I hoped being there would bring me some comfort. I arrived late in the day. The sun was still up, but it was freezing. I unpacked my gear and settled in. It was quiet, just me and the woods. At first I felt comfortable, but then I sensed something heavy in the air. After dinner, I found an old notebook on a shelf. It belonged to a distant relative. I felt curious, so I opened it. There were survival rules for staying at the cabin. They seemed odd, something I would have laughed off before. But as I read, a tingle of unease crept in. The next day, I wandered around the area. I snapped pictures of the trees, the snow, and the beautiful silence. But once night came, things changed. Around midnight, I thought I heard footsteps outside. I froze and listened. I only heard the wind, but my heart felt uneasy. I told myself it was just a forest, and forests make sounds. That night, I reread the notebook. The rules struck me as silly at first. Never disturb the trees at night, and trust what you see in the shadows. I laughed to myself, but deep down, I felt a nagging feeling, like something was out there watching me. I wanted to ignore it, but I couldn't shake the thought. The third night, I was trying to sleep when I saw a figure dart past the window. My heart raced. It was too quick to identify, but I felt the chill run down my spine. I remembered the notebook again. What you don't see can harm you. I gripped it tightly. I wanted to tell myself I was being silly, but fear rooted me in place. Then I heard a noise, something brushing against the wall of the cabin. I crept to the window and peeked outside. I wish I hadn't looked. A dark shape was standing there, so still. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to call out, but my voice failed me. The figure vanished. I felt something was wrong. Were the rules why I was still alive, or were they luring me to something worse? The shadows outside loomed heavier and thicker. I felt panic bubble inside my chest. I stepped back from the window and closed the curtain tightly. I wasn't sure what to do anymore. By the fourth night, it was clear I couldn't stay. I wanted to leave, but something kept me there. The rules, the shadows. I felt trapped in my own mind, unable to escape the creeping dread wrapping around me. I could almost hear whispers in the night, urging me to stay and confront what I couldn't see. But I knew one thing for sure. I had to get out. The fifth day dawned, and I was a mess. I barely slept. The haunting figure outside lingered in my thoughts, refusing to let go. I knew I had to pack up and leave the cabin, but as I prepared my things, an invisible weight held me back. I decided to go for a walk. Fresh air might clear my foggy mind. I stepped outside, my boots crunching in the snow. The world looked different in daylight, brighter but still draped in an unsettling stillness. I trudged deeper into the woods, hoping to shake the feelings that clung to me like shadows. As I walked, the trees towered over me, their branches twisting into strange shapes against the blue sky. I kept imagining a dark figure among them, waiting. I shook my head. I needed to prioritize my sanity over fear. If I could just make it to the edge of the forest and back, maybe I'd feel better. But then I noticed something, a break in the trees. Curiosity got the better of me. I followed it, stepping through a thicket of limbs. It led to a clearing, and in the center was a massive tree, its trunk wider than my arms could span. At its base, the snow had melted, revealing a dark, gnarled root system. Something shone faintly near the roots. I approached cautiously, my heart pounding. I knelt down to examine it and pulled away some snow. Underneath, there was a small, weathered box. It contrasted sharply with the stark whiteness around it. I hesitated. Should I even touch it? The notebook's rules flashed in my mind. Never disturb the trees at night. What transpired if a box was involved? But my curiosity overwhelmed me. I brushed off more snow and worked to open the box. A soft creak filled the air as the lid lifted. Inside, old photographs peeked out, yellowed and crumbling. I recognized some of the faces, my great-uncles, my grandmother when she was young. But there were others, unfamiliar faces I couldn't quite place. As I rummaged through the box, I stumbled upon a folded piece of paper. With shaking hands, I unfolded it. It was a letter, barely legible, filled with warnings. The trees watch. They know what you've done. You disturbed them. Do not return. Panic surged through me. I dropped the letter, and it fluttered down like a fallen leaf. I stood abruptly, the gravity of the note settling in. I hadn't thought about what lay buried beneath the surface of the place I thought was home. But before I could think further, something crashed through the underbrush behind me. My heart raced as I turned to look. There, at the edge of the clearing, stood the dark figure again, its features obscured by shadows. It watched me, unmoving, as if waiting for something. I stumbled back, adrenaline flooding my veins. I didn't want to confront whatever that was. Instinct kicked in, and I ran, heart pounding, the crunch of snow behind me filling the air like a drum. I could hear my breath mingling with the frantic rustle of branches. I tore through the woods, too scared to look back. There was only one thought in my head. I had to make it back to the cabin. But what if it followed me? That question spiraled in my mind as I pushed myself harder, desperately wanting to escape the grip of the wilderness and whatever was haunting me. I ran faster, the chill of the air biting at my lungs. My legs ached, but I couldn't slow down. I felt the weight of that dark figure in the clearing as if it were clinging to me, whispering secrets. "Don't look back," I repeated, but my instincts screamed otherwise. Branches scratched at my arms as I dashed through the underbrush. I could hear the crunching snow behind me, but I couldn't tell if it was my own steps or something more sinister following close. The trees closed in, and the path felt twisted and wrong. Just as I stumbled into a familiar clearing, my foot caught on a root, and I hit the ground hard. Pain shot through my ankle, but I couldn't afford to linger. I pushed myself up, wincing, and pressed forward, driven by sheer will. The cabin came into view, a beacon of safety, but it felt more like a trap than a refuge. The door creaked ominously as I threw myself inside, slamming it shut behind me. I locked it, trembling as I turned to survey the dim interior. Shadows danced unsettlingly on the walls, and the air was thick with silence. I leaned against the door, trying to catch my breath, my heart racing. I needed to think. The box, the letter, and the figure, they all swirled in my mind. I forced myself to examine the photographs again. I sank onto the couch, pulling the box close. My fingers trembled as I sifted through the contents. I needed answers. One photograph caught my eye. A woman, standing in front of the cabin, looked directly at the camera. I felt a shiver. She was beautiful, with dark curls cascading down her shoulders. Something about her was oddly familiar. I flipped the photo over. In faded ink, it read, Anna, 1985. I flinched. Anna was my grandmother's name. Had she been here? I scanned the other faces, piecing together a family history I didn't know. I was about to dismiss it when I noticed something else inscribed in the corner. We did what we had to. A cold chill ran down my spine. What had my family done here? The warning in the letter echoed in my mind. Were these faces the watchers the letter spoke of? My head spun. I suddenly felt trapped, not just in the cabin, but in a legacy of fear. Another noise jolted me from my thoughts, a soft thud at the door, pounding against the wood. I froze, the air thickening as I strained to listen. It was followed by a slow, deliberate scrape. My breath caught in my throat as I realized it was coming from just outside. Then a whisper, low and eerie, filtered through the crack. "Come out." It was my name, spoken in a voice that sent shivers through me. I couldn't move, paralyzed by an overwhelming dread. And then everything seemed to go silent. The scraping stopped. My heart hammered loudly in my ears, drowning out any rational thought. What should I do? That's when I saw it, a shadow slipping through the window, an ink blot against the fading light. I stepped back, my pulse racing. Whatever it wasn't going to let me hide forever. The shadow lingered near the window, and I held my breath. My heart felt like a wild animal trying to escape its cage. I glanced around the cabin, searching for something, anything, that could shield me from this darkness. The old hunting knife my grandfather had used hung above the fireplace. I took a deep breath and moved toward it, each step heavy with dread. I reached for the knife, my fingers brushing the cold metal. Just as I grasped it, the whimpering began, a soft, mournful sound that melded with the wind outside. I couldn't tell if it was real or just a figment of my fraying sanity. The whisper returned, more insistent now. "Come out, Anna." My stomach twisted. How did it know my name? Had it been waiting for me? I pressed my back against the cabin wall, clutching the knife tightly. Then, right on cue, the shadow shifted outside, and I caught a glimpse of a figure, a tall silhouette with a face hidden in darkness. "Please!" it called again, voice laced with desperation. "We need your help." Something in that plea struck me. Help? It sounded desperate, almost human. But lurking beneath the surface was an unmistakable threat. I felt torn, caught between fear and curiosity. Should I trust it? I had heard of the stories, warning against inviting in the unknown. "Who are you?" I shouted, my voice stronger than I felt. "What do you want?" Silence hung in the air, heavy and foreboding. The figure lingered just beyond the door. I glanced toward the photographs on the table. My grandmother, Anna. What had she been involved in? The cryptic writing, the faces, they all loomed in my mind. Just as doubt began to creep in again, the door rattled violently. It jolted me out of my thoughts. Adrenaline kicked in, and I instinctively squared my shoulders, ready to fight or flee. Then the door burst open. I stumbled back, knife raised, and gasped as the figure emerged. This time, a glimmer of light revealed its features, a woman with dark curls that shone like obsidian. She looked so much like the woman in the photograph, but her eyes were wild, like a rabbit caught in a trap. "We don't have much time," she said, breathless. "Do you want to know the truth?" I wanted to scream, to question her motives, but something deep inside me, the part that felt the weight of family history, urged me to listen. I stepped back, giving her space. "You need to understand what happened here, Anna. It's about your family." My mind raced. What could she possibly tell me that I didn't already sense? As I took a cautious step toward her, thoughts of the letter flickered in my mind. All the warnings weighed heavy. Then came a loud bang from the other side of the cabin. I turned, my heart racing again. It was clear, my past was colliding with the present. "Someone's coming," I said, panic rising in my throat. "It's not safe here, we need to go," she urged, urgency bleeding into her voice. Before I could protest, she lunged forward, grabbing my wrist. I felt an icy chill wrapping around me as I glanced back at the door. Whatever was out there wasn't going to let me escape that easily. I had no choice. Together, we dashed toward the back of the cabin, toward what lay beyond the darkness. We stumbled through the narrow hall, the air thick with the smell of damp wood and fear. My mind raced, barely keeping up with the events unfolding. The woman pulled me toward a door at the end, one I hadn't seen before. "Is there another way out?" I asked, glancing back at the door that had just been forced open. I could hear footsteps now, slow and deliberate, like someone was savoring every moment before they reached us. "There's no time," she insisted, dragging me through the door. I hesitated just long enough to glance outside. The shadows had crept closer, a dark cloud against the pale moonlight. I couldn't see any faces, only swirling shapes like smoke. Inside the next room, a small, dusty workshop revealed itself. Old tools lay scattered, and the scent of metal lingered in the air. My heart raced. The place felt heavy with secrets. The woman closed the door behind us, locking it with a rusty latch. "Who are you?" I asked again, my voice shaky. I tried to calm myself, but the urgency in her eyes told me everything I needed to know. "My name is Lila," she replied, tightening her grip on my wrist. "Your grandmother was involved in something big, Anna, something dangerous." Before I could respond, I heard the ominous creak from the other side. The door rattled again, but this time there was no mistaking the presence behind it. It wasn't just anyone. "Anna," a voice called from the darkness, deep and growling. "I know you're in there. The time has come." My blood ran cold. I recognized that voice, though I had hoped I would never hear it again. "Who is that?" I managed to choke out. "It's not just anyone. They're here for you," Lila whispered urgently. "We need to go before it's too late." I felt a strange compulsion to confront the figure, as if a part of me was drawn to it. But the memories flooded in, childhood stories of shadows lurking, warnings about the price of curiosity. "What do you mean they're here for me?" Lila's eyes flickered with fear. "Your family made a deal a long time ago. They promised to keep something safe, a secret entwined with your bloodline. But someone wants it back, and they won't stop until they find you." The grip on my wrist tightened. "We need to break this cycle, but we can't do it here." Before I could process her words, a loud crash echoed behind us. The door splintered as something slammed against it. "Go!" Lila shouted, pulling me toward a small window. "We have to escape now." I felt the cold metal of the knife still gripped in my hand. But was it enough? With a sharp intake of breath, I nodded, and we pushed through the tiny opening. As I squeezed through, the sound of splintering wood echoed in my ears, and panic surged through me. I could feel the darkness closing in. Then, just as I made it outside, I turned back for a moment. Lila looked at me with a mixture of determination and fear, a reflection of my own. "Find the truth, Anna," she shouted, shaking my shoulders one last time. "You have to face them." I took off into the night, but something pulled at my mind. The past was calling me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. That was when I heard it. The soft, deliberate footsteps behind me. Someone was in pursuit. The chill of the night air hit me as I sprinted into the woods, legs pumping and breath coming hard. The footsteps were close behind, a relentless reminder that I wasn't alone. Adrenaline surged through my veins, pushing me to move faster, to escape whatever fate awaited me if I was caught. Branches whipped at my face as I darted between trees, trying to lose my pursuer. I glanced over my shoulder but saw nothing, just darkness and shadows. But I could hear them, the sound of footsteps growing nearer. They were persistent and methodical, as if whoever was chasing me knew the woods better than I did. There has to be a way to shake them off, I thought, panic merging with my determination. As I raced further into the forest, I remembered snippets of advice from my grandmother about navigating these woods. She taught me to find fallen logs for shelter and to watch for moss, which always grew on the north side of trees. Just ahead, I spotted a massive tree trunk, half fallen and covered in dark moss. An idea struck me. I veered towards it, crouching behind it and pressing my back against the rough bark. I could hear nothing now, just my own ragged breath and the distant rustling of leaves in the wind. Had they passed? My heart thumped violently against my ribcage as I waited in silence. Just when I thought I might be safe, I heard it, a low, guttural laugh slicing through the stillness. My blood ran cold. The voice was unmistakable. "Anna, you can't hide from me. You're part of this." The words sent chills racing down my spine. I tried to convince myself that it couldn't be true, that Lila had been wrong. But deep down, I felt the weight of the secrets my family had kept for years. Suddenly branches snapped close by. I held my breath and squinted into the darkness, trying to see. Then, a shadow passed near my hideout. Panic washed over me. I could feel the presence creeping closer, searching for me. My mind screamed to run again, but my legs felt like lead. That was when I spotted something out of the corner of my eye, a flash of metal glimmering in the moonlight, wedged between the roots of the fallen tree. It was an intricate pendant, one I recognized from my grandmother's stories, another piece of the puzzle. I reached out, fingers trembling as I grabbed it. Instantly, a sense of warmth filled me, and it felt as if I could hear echoes of whispered warnings and secrets sworn to keep. But just then, a twig cracked loudly, and I sensed movement. The footsteps were back, inching closer. "Anna!" the voice called again, filled with desperation mixed with delight. "Come out! Come face what's rightfully yours!" I had no more time to ponder the pendant or its meaning. I slipped deeper behind the tree, looking for an escape route. With each second that passed, the danger loomed larger. I needed to act. And then, I spotted it. Between the gnarled roots of the tree, I saw a narrow path leading further into the darkness, away from the sound of pursuit. It was risky, but I had to make a choice. Taking a deep breath, I dashed down the path. Behind me, the footsteps erupted into a flat-out chase. They were coming for me, and I had to find a way to break free for good. Just as I surged ahead, I slipped and stumbled into a clearing. Before me stood an ancient stone altar, partially covered in vines and moss. In that moment of disorientation, I realized this was more than just a secret of my family's past. It was the heartbeat of the lore that bound us to this place. I took a step closer, questioning if this was the key. But before I could process any further, I heard a piercing growl behind me. My heart sank. I was far from safe. The growl reverberated in my ears, a jagged sound that pierced through the quiet. I spun around, adrenaline coursing through my body as I faced the darkness. The shadow loomed larger, taking form just beyond the tree line. My breath hitched in my throat. It was a creature. A massive, shaggy beast, eyes gleaming with an unnatural light. Panic surged again, fueled by sheer terror. It wasn't just the beast that terrified me. It was the realization that this wasn't a random encounter. I knew this was connected to my family, to the secrets I had only begun to uncover. The beast took a step forward, muscles rippling beneath its fur. My instincts kicked in. I needed to escape, but where? The stone altar seemed to pulse with a strange energy behind me. Somehow I felt drawn to it. Ignoring the growing dread, I turned my back to the creature and rushed toward the altar. As I approached, I could see the intricate carvings etched into the stone. They were familiar, symbols my grandmother had painted on the walls of our family cabin, a refuge of sorts from the world above. My fingers brushed against the cool surface, and I felt the pendant grow warm against my chest, as if awakening. The growl behind me became a low snarl, and I glanced back. The creature hadn't moved. It simply watched, its golden eyes fixed on me as if waiting for something. I couldn't tell if it was protecting the altar or guarding against me. Whatever this is, I need to find out, I whispered to myself, though my heart screamed to run. But instead of backing away, I studied the altar closely. There were places on it, almost like sockets, where something could fit. My mind raced as I thought of the pendant. Could it be more than just a trinket? The growl escalated, and I knew I had to make a choice. I reached into my pocket and retrieved the pendant, suddenly feeling its energy resonate with the altar. I placed it above one of the carvings, and in that instant, a surge shot through the ground beneath me. My vision blurred, and I staggered back, nearly losing my balance. The beast's eyes widened, and the snarling subsided into an eerie calm. It began to back away, as if the altar was a barrier it couldn't cross. I was stunned, but a voice deep within urged me to keep going. I took a deep breath and pressed the pendant down into the carved space. Just as the metal touched the stone, a bright flash erupted, and the forest exploded with light. I shielded my eyes. The growl transformed into a howl, but this time it felt different, almost mournful. The light dimmed, and as I looked around, everything had shifted. The trees were no longer hostile shadows. They appeared less dark, revealing path-like openings. Then I saw it, a figure emerging from the light. I squinted, heart racing. Was this part of the enchantment? Or was it something else entirely? I felt a pull toward this figure, curiosity mingling with fear. "Anna," it called softly, echoing through the clearing. "You've awakened what was meant to be." And in that moment, I realized the chase was nowhere close to over. I had opened a door, but now I had to decide whether to step through it. The figure stepped out of the remaining light, revealing a woman with long dark hair that danced with the breeze. She looked familiar, yet strange at the same time. Recognition danced at the edges of my memory, pulling me in. "Who are you?" I asked cautiously, glancing back at the creature. It stood at the edge of the clearing, still watching but no longer threatening. My heart raced. "I'm here to help you," she said, her voice soothing but firm. "You have awakened the bond that connects our worlds." "Worlds? What do you mean? And why do you look like—" My voice trailed off, searching for the right words. She looked like my grandmother, but younger, almost untouched by time. "The pendant you hold is part of a legacy. Your family has been the keeper of this connection for generations. The beast," she gestured toward the creature still lingering behind the shadows, "is a guardian, not an enemy. It is bound to protect—" I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. This was too much. "Protect what? What's at stake?" The woman sighed, stepping closer. "Your family history is steeped in secrets. The cabin was not simply a place of refuge. It was a threshold, a barrier meant to keep dark forces at bay. But with the pendant's power reawakened, the boundaries are weakening. You must make a choice." I fidgeted, the pendant growing heavier in my hand. "A choice about what? I don't understand." "The balance of our realm and yours hangs by a thread. You can close the door, or you can step through and uncover the truth." Her eyes locked onto mine, filled with urgency. "But be warned, Anna. Once you step through, there's no going back." I took a deep breath, trying to sort through the whirlwind of emotions. Fear wrapped tightly around my chest. What lay beyond that door? And could I even trust this woman who claimed to be connected to my past? In that moment, the creature let out a deep howl, shaking me from my thoughts. It barreled forward, stopping just at the altar's edge. I felt a strange connection to it, as if it sensed my inner turmoil. I hesitated. Would I close off all I could learn about my family? Or would I delve into this mystery, risking the chance of facing something darker than I knew? Just then, I noticed something glimmering at the edge of the clearing, almost hidden beneath the fallen leaves. I stepped closer, and as I bent down, my breath caught in my throat. It was a photograph. My grandmother standing in front of the family cabin, but beside her was a dog-like creature that looked remarkably like the guardian. The air felt charged with significance. That's when I saw it, the words scrawled on the back. "Trust the bond. It will guide you." I looked back up at her, the weight of decision pressing down harder than before. "What if I choose to go?" The woman smiled softly. "Then you will finally learn the truth of your family's legacy, Anna." A sudden rustle from the tree line made my heart race again. I wasn't alone. A new presence lingered just out of sight, and my instincts warned me that curiosity could also lead to danger. Before I could react, darkness flickered at the edge of the clearing, and a shadow darted from the trees. My decision loomed closer than ever as I heard heavy footsteps approaching. My pulse quickened as the footsteps grew louder, each step reverberating in the clearing. I glanced back at the woman, but her eyes were fixed on the darkness beyond the trees, her expression unreadable. "Anna, you need to decide fast," she urged, urgency creeping into her voice. "The choice you make will reveal your strength. The bond is strong, but the shadows are hungry." A chill swept through me. I could see the outline of a figure moving closer, tall and menacing. I had to act. The pendant felt like fire against my skin, pulsing in rhythm with my racing heart. "Do I step through?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Or do I stay here and confront whatever that is?" "You can only close the door for so long," she replied, the shadows flickering across her face. "If you stay, the darkness will find a way to break through." With a sudden clarity, I recalled my grandmother's stories of our family legacy. Tales of battles fought in the dark, of creatures that preyed on fear. This was it. This was real. The figure stepped into the moonlight, and my breath caught again. It was human, yet not. Its eyes gleamed with predatory intent, and its mouth curled into a sinister grin. A dark energy radiated off it, making my skin crawl. I took a step back, heart pounding. "What do you want?" I shouted, trying to sound braver than I felt. A low, guttural laugh erupted from its throat. "You don't need to know that yet, Anna," it said, voice dripping with disdain. "All that matters is what you choose." The woman beside me stiffened. "Trust your instincts," she urged. "You have the power to decide your fate. Remember the bond." I glanced back at the altar, remembering the photograph, the connection between my grandmother and the guardian. Could this really be my path forward? Before I could think too long, the entity lunged, a blur of motion that sent a wave of panic surging through me. Instinct took over. I turned toward the altar, clutching the pendant tightly. "Close it!" the woman shouted, emboldening my resolve. I stepped forward, heart racing as I approached the light that shimmered above the altar. I couldn't ignore the weight of my heritage. The choice had to be made. But in the split second before I reached for the pendant, I felt a sharp tug on my sleeve. The creature surged forward, its massive form blocking my path. I stumbled back, fear flooding my senses. "Anna!" the woman screamed, her voice piercing through the chaos. With a final look at the growing darkness, I made my choice. I raised the pendant high, calling on the legacy I barely understood. An energy surged through me, colliding with the shadows just as the creature lunged again. Then everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, I was still in the clearing, but everything felt different. The oppressive weight of the shadows had lifted, and the air shimmered with a strange luminosity. I blinked against the brightness, my heart still racing from the chaos that had unfolded. The figure I had felt before was gone, swallowed by the light. The woman stood nearby, her expression softer now, framed by an ethereal glow. "You did it," she said, relief washing over her voice. "You've re-established the balance. The bond is safe once again." But even as she spoke, uncertainty crept in, gnawing at my thoughts. Had I truly resolved the conflict, or had I merely postponed it? My gaze wandered to the silhouettes of the trees, their forms now serene, but still tinged with something eerie. "What does this mean?" I asked, trying to steady my breath. "Is it over?" She shook her head, and a shadow of sadness flickered across her features. "The darkness will always try to return. Your family's legacy is tied to this place, and to the creatures that dwell within it. You must remain vigilant." That familiar chill gripped my heart again. The hunter still lurked in the shadows, waiting for another chance. But I thought I sealed it away forever. A faint smile appeared on her lips. "You sealed it for now, but knowledge has a way of drawing the darkness, Anna. The stories you share, the truths you uncover, each will either strengthen the bond or invite the shadows to return. Remember, your choice to step through the threshold today will not be your last. You are bound to this legacy forever." My mind reeled. I had escaped the immediate threat, yet my journey felt far from complete. The whispers of my family's past echoed in my ears, urging me to confront what lay buried in history. What other secrets were entwined with my bloodline that I hadn't yet discovered? "Will I see you again?" I asked, seeking reassurance in her emerald eyes. "I will always be here," she replied, her voice a melodic comfort. Even if you don't see me. Trust the bond, Anna. It will guide you. Suddenly, the world began to shift again, the light dissolving like mist before the sun. Wait! I shouted, but her form wavered, receding into the light. I reached out, desperate not to lose her connection, but she slipped from my grasp like air through fingers. And just like that, I stood alone in the clearing. Silence enveloped me, broken only by the gentle rustling of leaves. I inhaled deeply, the crisp scent of pine filling my lungs, grounding me in reality. I retraced my steps through the woods, each footfall echoing my turbulent thoughts. As I crossed the threshold toward the cabin, I couldn't shake off the lingering doubts. I glanced back, almost expecting to see the shadow lurking behind the trees. When I made it inside the cabin, the familiar scent of wood and old memories welcomed me. The world felt different, colors more vibrant, as if the ordeal had altered my perception. I approached the wall where family photos hung, and I studied the faces of those before me, my ancestors, each a chapter of a long, tangled story. I thought about the letter, the warning etched in faded ink. You disturbed them. Do not return. But here I was, drawn back again, battling unseen forces. The pendant rested heavily in my pocket, a reminder of the legacy I had awakened. I picked up the old notebook from the table, flipping through its surviving pages. The rules seemed less silly now. They had taken on new meaning with my experience. Yet still, questions swirled like snowflakes in a gust. Had I really contained the darkness? What truths remained hidden, waiting to shake the fragile peace I had just found? I knew I would have to return to the woods and confront those unanswered questions. The weight of my family's past lay ahead, beckoning me to delve deeper into a mystery that thrummed with every heartbeat. But for now, beneath the shelter of my family cabin, I took a breath, aware that the journey was just beginning. As I looked out into the frosted horizon, the wilderness stirred awake, its shadows whispering promises of what was to come. And I would be ready, even if I didn't know what that truly meant.